Introducing America's Workforce Academy, built by Meta. Paid training, a job, and a path to America's future. Because the future is for everyone. Learn more at meta.com/America's Workforce Academy.
American homeowners are sitting on $30 trillion in home equity. But home insurance is up over 100% since 2010. Healthcare, childcare, property taxes, all up. But wages? Just stuck. Lots of equity, but feeling the squeeze. Every month they wonder why it still feels so tight. Unlock thinks we need to talk about this more. Start at unlock.com/equity. Unlock Home Equity Solutions and MLS 2657081.
Summer weekends are all about family, sunshine, and making memories together. Before everyone arrives, I stop by my local Total Wine & More to pick up a great bottle. Maybe a favorite we already love or something new to enjoy with dinner on the patio. Find what you love and love what you find only at Total Wine & More. Curbside pickup and delivery available in most areas. Visit TotalWine.com to learn more. Spirits not sold in Virginia and North Carolina. Drink responsibly. Must be 21.
The DCU continues today with Supergirl being released, the follow-up from James Gunn's Superman, which came out last year. Adapting Tom King's Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow comic, this tells the tale. Kara Zor-El, she's out in space, she's drunk, Crypto's there, and there's adventure. Adventure, revenge, gotta beat up some space guys. I just got back from a early screening of it, thanks to Warner Brothers for that invite, and also they gave me a comic book. It's like a reprint of the first issue of Woman of Tomorrow, but with the movie on it. This is not gonna like sway my review in any way, but pretty cool little reprint there. Okay, Supergirl has been one of my favorite characters for a very long time. I am a big fan of her in the comics and on screen. Pretty reasonably big fan of the CW TV show, as much as you can be of one of the CW superhero shows. Zach and I did review the movie from the 80s a couple years ago. You can go back and check that one out. That movie is, oh boy. And of course, I really loved James Gunn's Superman from last year. That was a version of the character, a version of a Superman, a superhero movie in general that I was really, really wanting, because I feel like we haven't gotten anything like that for the character of Superman, and then also for superhero films in general for a very long time. So I was really, really, really looking forward to it. It paid off. I love that movie. And I was really excited to see what they would do with the follow-up, which we have right now. Okay, firstly, I really do appreciate how different this movie is from Superman. I was a little worried going into it, I'm not gonna lie, that this movie would kind of follow that Marvel trend of everything's kind of the same, which we also kind of saw in the previous version of the DCU, I feel, with Zack Snyder as the creative lead. All those movies felt the same, they were kind of shot the same, there were some differences here and there, but for the most part, they all felt very similar. And I was really hoping that Supergirl would not feel that way, especially considering as the director is Craig Gillespie. And we've got a different writer as well, Ana Nogueira. And I think it's pretty safe to say that the vibe of Supergirl is very different to the vibe of Superman. The tone is a lot darker. Obviously, it's set in space as well. The comedy is completely different. The action is also completely different. The cinematography is also different. And one of the differences I didn't like is the color grading is a lot less colorful. It's very brown and dark green and just that sort of vibe that I personally am not a huge fan of. When you put a movie in space, I want it to be bright and colorful, and not in the same way that Superman was. That was very bright and colorful, but in a purpley pink, like Blade Runner, I guess, sort of way. This movie leans more towards browns and greens, which it's a minor complaint, something I wasn't a huge fan of, but it does look visually different to Superman, which is what I wanted, and what I think is going to be the real success of this DCU. From the looks of it, every single movie is going to feel different. If James Gunn's doing it, it's going to feel like a James Gunn movie. We're getting Clayface, a horror film, in October. That's going to be very different as well, and so I think Supergirl being weirdly more grounded than Superman was really welcoming. This is definitely like a character piece, and I think that's really cool. And I think that I will get into some negatives. I do have mixed thoughts about this movie, but straight off the bat, I think that with this being a character piece, it allows Millie Alcock to just own this performance. This is such an interesting version of Supergirl. I feel like a lot of the previous versions of Supergirl are, what if Superman but a girl? Whereas this character feels like a different character. You know, she's got a very different sort of backstory to Kal-El. She's struggling with very, very different things than Kal-El is, than Superman is. And I think that's really cool, and I'm really glad that they went really hard on that in this movie, because I think it helps separate this film from last year's movie really, really well. And again, you need stuff like that to keep this universe going, and they're off to a really good start. I also think that it's great to see Millie Alcock on the big screen. I was a big fan of her in House of the Dragon. She was only there for a little bit before they did a time jump, so I'm really, really happy that, now she's on the big screen and is in a character that I think we're going to see grow over many, many, many movies, and I'm very excited to go on that journey. Speaking of Superman, I'll get this out of the way. David Corenswet is in this as the man, Superman. I don't know why I said the man, that was weird. Superman. He is in this as Superman. Thankfully, not much. It is good to see him here. I was really hoping that he wouldn't have that many big scenes, and he doesn't. They really restrain on using him, which is good, because this is a Supergirl movie. Don't need Superman in my Supergirl movie, please. Save that for the next one. But saying that, it does feel like we haven't seen those two really interact much on screen yet. So I'm very excited when we finally do get that team-up movie, that I'm very keen to see what that dynamic is like. All right, the rest of the cast, I'll talk about Jason Momoa now as well. He's Lobo, definitely showing why this is the comic book character that he was meant to play. Aquaman was fine. This is him. This is great. This is exactly who he wants to be playing. You can see that he's having so much fun. The design for the character is really cool as well. The action scenes with the character are really slick, very metal. Also, not really in it a whole lot, but, I'm sure he'll show up again in the future. Jason Momoa is having the time of his life. He's not going to let this character go.
Every wireless service comes with a cost, right? Wrong. The Text Now app lets you do your thing for free. Get real talk, real text, and 5G data for must-have apps with no monthly bill. Need more data? Add it right from the app. Done? Go back to free. No long-term contracts, no pressure, no surprises. Just wireless that works around you. Text Now. We've got your back. Download Text Now in your app store today. Wireless plans require the purchase of a SIM card. Visit textnow.com for terms and conditions.
New England summers don't exactly ease you in. 1 minute the windows are open, the next your apartment feels unbearable. Well, meet Windmill Air. Windmill window ACs are sleek. They're quiet and cool your space fast without the bulky eyesore. Rated the #1 easiest AC to install, Windmill lets you adjust temperatures right from your phone and, unlike traditional units, cools your room more evenly like central air. Shop Windmill online at windmillair.com or pick up an AC at your nearest Target or Home Depot. Windmill, modern air care your room deserves.
But probably outside of Alcock, the big standout for me is Eve Ridley as Ruthe. She is a younger girl that joins Kara on this adventure, and I think that Ridley does a great job with this performance. Does a lot of showing, not telling with her face in terms of, how the character is feeling in the moment, which I think is cool and different, for superhero movies where everyone's always yelling their thoughts all the time. So, the cast, all fantastic. I don't think there's a bad performance in there. Soundtrack also very good. A lot of big needle drops, as seems to be the staple with this new DCU. We'll see what happens in Clayface. So far, I'm here for it. I don't think it's ever really distracting. I think all of the songs are paired very well with the scenes that they're in, and they add to it rather than distract from it, which some recent movies have definitely done with their needle drops. But I did mention the visuals earlier. Aside from the general color scheme of the movie, which again is that brown and green look that I'm not a huge fan of, the visual effects also do fall into that camp of it's really good until it isn't. There are some visual effects here, specifically I think it's very specific, and this did bug me a little bit in the trailer, but flying in space. When characters are flying in space, and by that I mean they're not wearing a suit, they're just flying in space, that stuff just didn't look great to me. It looked a little bit uncanny. I also feel like there's a few digital doubles here as well that don't quite work, especially compared to Superman. I think Superman looked really good. This one has a few dodgy moments, but maybe it was just me, and I don't know. We'll see what happens when general audiences go see this later today. A lot of my hang-ups for this movie I don't think I can really talk about in a non-spoiler review. A lot of it is very plot-centric. There's some decisions that they make kind of all throughout the film that I don't know if I agree with. I'm not saying that in the terms of I read the comics, this isn't my Supergirl. I don't mean that at all. I think the character of Supergirl for the story they're telling is very well done. I don't have an issue with that. I'm talking more about decisions that characters make, situations that the story puts the characters in, some themes that they touch on and whether or not that actually plays out well. Also, the structure of the movie, it's set in space, you need to do a little bit more exposition, how they do that. I think the exposition scenes were done very well, but the placement of them, where they are in the movie, stuff like that is where I have criticisms towards Supergirl. But yeah, my main one is the, themes of the film. Now, this is a lot darker than Superman, which brings up questions for me immediately. Superman, you know, the one with the guy in it, is the fun, colorful, goofy one. Oh, everyone's doing and then Supergirl is the one where it's like, now we're going to deal with real issues. And I'm like, but why are we doing this still? Maybe I am reading too much into it. It's not that deep. It does come down to what comics they're adapting. Woman of Tomorrow is very different to, I guess, All-Star Superman kind of vibes, which is what James Gunn was doing for his movie. So two very different comic books that you're basing these movies on. Maybe that contributes to it. Absolutely. I just think that this is the first Supergirl film that we've gotten since the 80s, and you're immediately making her deal with some pretty dark subject matter. I'm like, yeah, but Superman had a fun time. What are we doing? If you have read Woman of Tomorrow, then you know what I'm talking about when I say the darker themes of that story. A lot of those are included in this movie, which I actually was genuinely quite surprised by, particularly because Superman wasn't as close of an adaptation as this movie is, which is very interesting. I think it does work for the overall tone of the film. The overall tone of this movie reminded me a lot of cheap sci-fis from the 80s. And I think that comes down to like practical suits for the aliens, practical sets for the most part, stuff that was kind of cheaper to make back then, but done on a scale of today where it does look, you know, a lot more polished than it did back in the 80s. But also there are some story beats that did remind me of that era of making movies as well. There's some borderline exploitation, kind of like revenge movie stuff going on here, which I think is really cool to see in a modern day superhero film. Whether or not this is the best film to do it in, that's a different conversation. So I'm kind of torn on it because I think that the vibe is really cool, and I like that we're seeing a movie like this on a bigger screen, on a bigger budget, for a much larger audience because it's a superhero film. I can't think of, outside of The Mandalorian and Grogu, which for me did kind of cross into that 70s Western but set in space sort of vibe. That part of it worked for me a lot. This movie does the same sort of thing, except, you know, it's a revenge sci-fi with kind of like some exploitation themes sprinkled in there. I think that's really cool to see on the big screen. I do think at the same time, though, you do have to be careful when you're doing that, but especially for, you know, a movie that a lot of people are going to see. You know, it's a DC film, it's Supergirl, there's going to be a lot of younger people going to see this, and there are definitely some things in this film that they kind of dance around that I'm like, maybe don't put it in there in the first place. But overall, I would say that I did enjoy this movie quite a bit. It's got some good performances in there, as I've already mentioned. Some really good action as well. I haven't really talked about that too much, but I thought the action was very well done. A lot of long cuts, which very happy to see. Hand-to-hand combat. You're not cutting that much. Excellent stuff. I am a big fan of that. It does get a goodie from me, and I'm very intrigued to see what audiences think of this one. I think it's going to be a little bit divisive. So if you have seen Supergirl, let me know what you think of it. There we go. Done. See ya.
New England summers don't exactly ease you in. 1 minute, the windows are open. The next, your apartment feels unbearable. Well, meet Windmill Air. Windmill window ACs are sleek. They're quiet and cool your space fast without the bulky eyesore. Rated the #1 easiest AC to install, Windmill lets you adjust temperatures right from your phone and, unlike traditional units, cools your room more evenly like central air. Shop Windmill online at windmillair.com or pick up an AC at your nearest Target or Home Depot. Windmill, modern air care your room deserves.
Introducing America's Workforce Academy, built by Meta. Paid training, a job, and a path to America's future. Because the future is for everyone. Learn more at meta.com/America's Workforce Academy.
You've got social dialed in. Search is doing its thing. So why do your marketing results look the same as 6 months ago? That's because you're fishing in the same pond as everyone else. Podcast listeners are a different audience entirely. More engaged, harder to reach through traditional channels, and ready to act when someone they trust makes a recommendation. We're Acast, and we put them right in front of you. Browse thousands of the world's leading podcasts, book host reads or run your own ads, and track every conversion in real time. Same skills you already have, brand new results. Acast. Acast.com/advertise.